Welcome to Flute Space, a platform created to show interesting stories related to life as a flutist and discovering inspiring content in form of a podcast. You can catch up with us on our Instagram at theflutespace, and you can listen to our podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and YouTube. All these links can be found in our link tree in the description. And if you want to support us, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/theflutespace, or you can join us on Patreon.
In today's episode, we have an amazing musician talking with us. Being the second flute of Luxembourg Orchestra and many other things at the same time, she talks about how is to manage between work and life, how is to go through big competitions, how is to keep doing auditions when you are not a student anymore, and in general, how to make decisions always listening to ourselves. We will be talking to Hélène Boulègue.
So we're so happy to be here today in live, not just online, with Hélène Boulègue. Welcome to the Flute Space.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm really glad to meet you at last. So yeah.
So you're playing a concert today here with your orchestra, and we saw that you started to play in orchestra super early. How was that for you, combining your studies and
It was 13 years ago. So I just had entered the Paris Conservatory in the first year of the bachelor. And my teacher, she heard me play the piccolo, and she just sent me to the audition. Like, oh, there's a second flute playing piccolo audition, just go. And I won it. So hindsight, it was easier back then. So the first audition is kind of the easiest because there's no pressure. So I started the job. And so first I took a sabbatical from the conservatory for my trial period. And then...
So right at the beginning of your studies, you took a break.
I started in September, I got the job in January, and I started in May. So the second year, I took off. And then I went through the trial period, and then I did my second year of bachelor. So in Paris, it's 3 years only the bachelor. And you can theoretically make it in 2 if you've got all the right points, ECTS thingies. So I somehow managed to buckle it up in 2 years, and that was it. And then my teacher and me, we talked about, do I still do the masters or not? And we agreed that I was taking a spot for someone with no job, and that I should stop for the bachelor. After the bachelor, so I stopped. I quit the conservatory after the bachelor. And then, that was it until I did my first competition in 2013, and I discovered that I was playing the flute, but I was not playing any music, and I decided I needed help with that, and I did my master in Karlsruhe in Germany. Okay. So I bought a car, and I drove back and forth at ungodly hours in the morning, drove at 5 o'clock, had my lesson at 9, came back for the afternoon rehearsal, or that in the evening, and
That sounds super intense.
Yeah, but it was so exciting, and so hard to learn about music. It's much harder to, just put your guts on the table and try your best, and having a teacher tell you no, you're just really not far. It's just really completely not right, and then you've got to drive back, and you're like, what am I doing wrong? And crying in the car the whole way, and
Oh my
It's
God.
like you went backwards. You started already with orchestra, and then all of the other things that normally in this kind of how you do your bachelor, do your master, do another master. But so how was that kind of combining orchestral knowledge and things that you were learning on day to day on your job, and then combining with flute pieces on your master?
So it's hard to say. Just first for the bachelor, what was interesting is my first year of orchestra, I was not having any lessons, so I just practiced my flute and my orchestra parts and no repertoire at all. And then when I did my bachelor final exam, I had trouble because I hadn't played repertoire in a long time, and I'm second flute in the orchestra, so it's a very different job from first flute, and it's mainly support and all the chords and playing in tune and going with the first, but it's not exactly the same. And so I had spent 1 whole year without playing with any vibrato, for instance. So that was a surprise when the final exam came and my teacher told me, yeah, you played the whole Bartok without vibrato. And well, really? Did I do that?
Also, to suddenly play a solo recital,
yeah,
actually just like
different.
Spotlight on you and not,
So during the masters, I was working the music side, so it was different. But as a second flute, it's a very different thing. Well, anyway, as a first flute as well, but as a first flute, you still have solos and phrases that you have to lead, and it's a bit more like actually playing flute repertoire. Mm-hmm. So, it's just very different sides of being a flutist.
And you mentioned in 2013 you did your first competition. So, what was your motivation to do that competition? And the following ones.
I had been in the orchestra already almost 2 years at that time when I applied for the Kobe competition, and I realized that I had passed through probation and I was 22 and I could just do the same thing for the next 40 years. And to be honest, I'm lazy. I don't like practicing my flute, and if I don't have any special thing making me have to practice, I don't really practice. So I
think
thought,
we all know that.
So I thought, let's go for a competition. There's Kobe. I'm in love with Japan, as lots of French people are, and I always wanted to go to Japan, and let's just go to the Kobe competition. And I applied and I was invited, and so I had to practice, and that's how it started.
Wow. Did it ever feel like, I'm applying to Kobe competition, like, this is huge?
Yeah, that was huge, and also it was the first time I traveled that far, and it's the other side of the other end of the world, and you arrive there, and at that time in Kobe no one spoke English, and I was very glad that I had some assimil with Japanese, and I could at least say a few sentences to ask for something, because it was like, even at the hotel reception no one spoke English, so it was really complicated. And that was probably one of the things that changed me the most in my life, really, because it was an adventure. And also that's when I realized, when I was sitting in the final round, I had passed to the second round and that was it. And in the final round there was Mathilde Calderini and Sébastien Jacot, and I was sitting there and I listened to them, and that's where I realized, oh my God, I'm just I'm still in childcare in matter of music. I've got so many things to learn, and thank God I'm not at stage right after them, because I would look ridiculous. So, I came back a very different person. So, I still remember that very vividly.
It must be super inspiring to listen to those kind of people play
and
live.
It was a huge shock. I came back, it was really, my emotions were in shambles. It was really a very hard time for me to just put all things together again.
But how did you deal with it, or how did you continue to work then? Did you change something in your practice?
Well, I applied for, just before Kobe, one of my colleagues who had studied with Renate Greis in Germany, he told me she's doing a course, so go there. And so I had a couple of lessons with her, and I was very enthusiastic. Mm-hmm. And when I came back from Kobe, I called her and I said, I'm gonna audition for the Hochschule, because I want to learn music and I think you can help me. So I went to Germany, and it was really interesting because they had a completely different approach to music and to flute playing. So, I think Josephine told you more or less the same in the podcast. It was interesting because it's like you arrive at the Paris Conservatory, everyone has a perfect sound, everyone has a perfect technique, and everyone can play it very well. There's almost nothing to change flute-wise, But the music, I remember when I was studying in Paris, if you don't have time to practice this week, you just bring a Bach sonata. But the fact is, Bach sonata is the thing that demands the most practicing, to me at least. And in Germany, everyone knew how to play a Bach sonata. So maybe the sound was not as perfect, or maybe they were not playing hours of scales every day, but they had an idea about how to phrase. So that was a big lesson.
Wow, so that's a really big difference also between the two schools.
Like a contrast.
Yeah, and that was really humbling for me to just be there and like, okay, I've got a job and everything, but they have an idea about Bach and I have no idea how to play that. So, yeah.
So, did you then choose to study in Germany because of the master classes, the courses?
Yes,
or
yes.
Did you think about going to continue studies in France?
No, well, I had, one of the reasons I quit the conservatory was that the administration was a bit of a pain.
Did you have to be there or you're not
yeah,
there?
you have to do the orchestra. So like I had to tell them a couple of times, I have like an orchestra job. So I don't really need to do the orchestra sessions of the orchestra. So
oh my God, like you would have to take off a week of your real job to do exactly the same, just there.
And yeah, they were a bit of a pain with chamber music and so it was complicated. So I decided never again. And also I spoke German and I had always wanted to go to Germany. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity to actually discover what
it sounds like you got another view.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
And I think that's really like a special thing.
Yeah, I think as musicians to change countries and ways of seeing the music at some point in our studies is really exciting and empowering. So
kind of on the topic with that, what is your dream country or city to live in?
Oh gosh, I have asked myself this question a lot of time because of auditions and things. And the thing is, actually now that I've been in Luxembourg so long and it's changed so much, and now I'm a mom, I wouldn't change it. Like Luxembourg is really, really great. So yeah,
that's great. I mean, it couldn't be a better answer. Actually.
Yeah, no, that's really So
that's nice. Well, we were talking about competitions before, and do you think nowadays that actually all the competitions have like pre-selection rounds through video? Do you think it gives like more opportunities or less opportunities to people to get into competitions?
I think it has good and bad sides. It's the same thing for auditions now. My orchestra does that with auditions. I have me and a couple of colleagues have battled against that fervently and lost the fight. I think it's good because competitions and auditions are very expensive, and not everyone can afford to just go and maybe get out after one round.
It's a pity to sit in a train or a plane and then you play 3 minutes and it's over.
Yes, and that being said, not everyone has the same setup to record. We all know that, and I think it makes a difference. So, of course, when we watch videos, I've been in a jury of such competitions a couple of times. We do see the difference between what has to do with the sound technique or not. But still, at very high levels, like these international competitions, like Kobe or Geneva right now, it's hard. Nothing can replace being in person. So, if then the people who pass the pre-selections can go there and they are being supported financially wise, and then that's a reason for it, why not? But I think, nothing can beat being there in person. So because the stage presence, I don't think it's going through with the video. So,
there's a lot of things that you can only feel in the same room.
No, I'm glad I did the competitions before COVID time, and I find it a pity now that it's all on video. But also for some people, they wouldn't be invited otherwise. Like auditions, for example. Now in my orchestra, we have everyone can apply, and we watch the video, and then we maybe with a resume they wouldn't get invited, but with the video they're great, so we just invite them. So it has good and bad sides.
Pros and cons. And about the preparation process for the auditions, how different is it from the preparation process for competitions? Maybe with the video in mind, or maybe without the video.
Well, I never did with video myself, so it's hard to say, but even with or without, it's the same thing, that competitions or auditions are very different things. First, competitions, you have huge repertoire. I mean, you also have lots of repertoire for auditions, and depending on the orchestras, they have huge lists. In France, they are like crazy with the lists.
Like the hardest excerpts.
I don't get French orchestras, really. I mean, like, it's the only people who have time to go through all these excerpts are students who have nothing else to do. So students who don't have to teach to get by, or like, it's very discriminatory, especially for solo flute jobs. All of them are saying, like, we want people with experience. You can't get someone with experience with such a huge program, because people with experience are busy working. So
but it's also in other countries and for other instruments. I mean, it's really like you get a book.
But it's true that for Germany or Austria, for example, it's not like that at all.
No, it's standard. Like,
it's like really normal, just from the Probespiel book.
Absolutely, and that's perfect. You don't need anything fancy. You don't need some weird excerpt or concerto or etude, or no one needs that. Mozart concerto shows it all. You don't need anything else. And
But why do you think is that actually, that in France?
I have no idea. I have no explanation for that. Really, for me, it doesn't make sense. So but that being said, French orchestras are great and they play very well and the level is very high. But I mean, it's a very weird process. So auditions and competitions, I think for a competition, so some very gifted people who don't need a lot of time to prepare new pieces will tell you otherwise. But I need a lot of time to prepare my program. So for competitions, I would start to prepare at least 6 months before. Like, as soon as you've got the program and you apply, you just get on with it, because first of all, you never know what's going to happen between now and your competition. You maybe will get freelancing like crazy, or you just won't have time to practice, and you need to to just get the material through your body, your brain, your guts, everything. It needs to be you, the music. So it takes time, in my opinion. And auditions, of course, you need to prepare them beforehand. If it's not your first audition, then after a while, the preparation process is easier because you've played them 100 of times already, the script. So it's you just like, quote, air quotes, you just need to be very fit and to know the script. And the first auditions, of course, you need a lot of time to prepare for them. After a while, it's a matter of being fit and knowing exactly where your weaknesses lie, and still arriving kind of fresh at the audition. Like, oh my God, another Beethoven, Leonore. Oh, I can't play that anymore. I hate it. If you feel that way, I think they're gonna hear it.
Yeah, I think it's dangerous for people that really are in like a audition process, doing a lot of auditions, being like 1 week here, 1 week there, traveling all the time, then to not be tired.
Yeah, I think you need to pick your battles. It's very important. I mean, I've done a lot of auditions. Like, really, after my first audition, I did in the last years especially. And I think you need to pick your battles, because it takes a lot out of you. Well, it's expensive, so if you're a student, it's complicated to find the funds. It takes a lot of energy, and especially if it doesn't go well, it's really hard on you. It's really, really hard, and so that's why you need to pay attention to your health, your mental health.
Yeah, and also your energy balance.
Yes, absolutely.
That's very true.
Well, we could follow your audition process on your social media. Why did you decide to share it?
Because, social media, I love it. But also, we need to be careful with it, because 99% of people share just the nice part of their life, which is their right and which is absolutely fine. And of course, I want to share what's going well as well, but it's not life. Life is not all shiny and sparkles and princess dress for a concert, and it's not only winning. And I think it's so important to show students, and also not only students but other people, that the resume and what you see is what we want to show, but there have been battles lost before that, and there have been dark places and dark moments, and lots of self-doubt and lots of work on oneself, and sometimes it works, and that's great, but sometimes it doesn't. And I think especially from people who have won things, it's good to know that they also can lose. And they also have moments where they think they're not gonna make it work. Because as a student, it's been very important for me to know that other people were also going through hard times, and so I want to share that. I think it's important.
It's super important, I think, for all of us, because it's so easy to get frustrated, especially when you're a student and maybe you see people winning jobs and constantly posting, I'm so happy to share that this happened and this happened.
Yeah, and they don't share that maybe they played the wrong note and they have been, thinking about quitting, and or like the colleague has maybe said something not really nice, and they have been like not sleeping over it, and so they don't share that.
And if you were a person that doesn't have anything happy to share on social media at that time, it can be hard on you. But
I mean, I think we're all going kind of through the same experiences, at least like emotionally, and how attached we are to what we're doing. So then it's difficult to see that, like, oh no, other people struggle as well. It's not just me. It's fine. But kind of on the topic of that, what kind of feedback did you get from sharing your process?
Oh, from sharing my process, I like hundreds of messages saying thank you. You know, the most honest post I've done, it's probably lost on the internet somewhere, but when so I don't know if you know my whole story, but I was principal Flute at the radio in Stuttgart for 1 year, and I didn't pass probation, which was tough. So I came back to Luxembourg. Thank God I still have I had my job there. But so after I didn't pass the trial, I had to, announce it on social media, which I waited a couple of months to do because I needed to, be able to talk about it without just crying my eyes out. And I decided to share honestly that, okay, I haven't passed my trial, and that came as a surprise to me, and it was really tough because, so when you don't win an audition, ideally you try not to take it personally because it's never personal.
Yeah.
But when you win the audition and then you play with people for 1 year and they just say, okay, no, sorry, that's not working.
Then of course it's hard to not take it.
It's hard to not take it personally, despite what they say. And with it's nothing personal. It has to be a match. It's chemistry. It's like any relationship. It has to work out. And now I know that, but it was really hard, and I decided to write about it because I mean, like people would wonder anyway, and I wanted to, just share that, okay, I'm devastated, it's hard. That being said, I was thankful for this year. I learned a lot, and people had been really, really nice with me all the time until the very end, and I'm very grateful for that. And so I shared that, and it was really hard, and I got in like one day like hundreds of messages, and someone like, can I translate it in Chinese for my blog, and can I translate it in Spanish for my blog, and can I share it with my student, and it was crazy. It was really, really crazy. And so many people saying thank you so much, I just went through that, and I thought like I've been feeling so down, and now I see you that you won this huge competition and you won this audition and still it didn't work out, and you're sharing that, and it. So since then I'm just sharing when it's really hard, so not everything, but I had been sharing mostly everything until I had my baby, and because I think it's important when you see how grateful people are to just feel like they're not alone in the struggle. It's just, I think it's so important.
You created an honest space.
Yes, absolutely. And I've been like, we all know social media full of trolls and haters, and I'm prepared for that. It still hasn't come to this day, and that's actually quite surprising that no one ever wrote a weird or a hateful message to me yet. So
I think it's hard to when you get something so honest, and also, I mean, we know people who've had trials, or we've heard people who've had trials and who haven't passed them in wondered why not.
Yeah.
They're incredible. They got the job, but only for a short amount of time. And yeah, I guess it's chemistry. It's like an organism, the orchestra, and you have to.
So many things come into play, and I've seen that a lot since I'm back in Luxembourg, because we also had people passing or not passing through trials, and it's such a hard process. Also with auditions, when you're in the jury, you also see like, oh, that's why orchestras never take anyone for this job, because it's just the woodwinds want that, and the strings want that, and the concertmeister want that, and the conductor wants that, and maybe the oboist want that, and like no one wants the same thing, and it's the same for probation, and it's just you need luck to win and to pass, and I mean not only luck, of course, you need to be prepared and to do your best, and also like the social skills come into play, because you need to have to. I mean, I want to play with nice people that I love and I trust, and I think everyone wants that. So that's also important, and so much of it isn't in your hands, and it's kind of terrifying, but also relieving somehow. That sometimes it's just not your fault, which is also why in auditions we can't take it personally, because so much of it hasn't anything to do with how you play. So it's really crazy.
That's such an important message that I think you cannot hear enough times to really get it into your brain and know.
Yeah. No, it's
like, I mean, actually orchestra is a really big group project, and everyone needs to agree, and that's kind of impossible.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, but in the moment it's really hard to be objective, because it's so close to us, and it's a subjective thing.
So much energy and time and effort, and like your whole heart, you just pour it there, and they're just like, sorry, no.
Yeah, and you feel devastated. I mean, at some point, after a couple of auditions that went not well at all, I felt like the worst human being. I felt like I was worthless. I mean, why does an audition for principal flute make me worthless as a human being? There's no reason.
Yes.
Why do we come so far? And
I think that's because we just do something that we really love, musicians, no? And then it's hard to like really separate. Oh, this is my job, my profession, and this is me, my personal.
And what we manage, what we achieve or don't achieve, doesn't define us, and that's so important. And that's one thing that I actually wrote in my post, in this famous post. That's what our failures don't define us, and really, it's just. Me being a first prize of Kobe doesn't define me, and me failing through the probation doesn't define me as well. I'm just so much more than the first prize and someone who didn't pass trial. This is so much more exciting what I have to offer than just that,
Yes, definitely.
And that's the same thing for everyone. We are not our victories, and we are not our defeats. We are just human beings, and it's got nothing to do with how well or unwell we do in auditions. And one thing I want to say about that is competitions like auditions. Of course, if you win, it means you play well, obviously. But not winning doesn't mean that you don't play well. And really, the opposite isn't true. It's just some people don't pass first round and they play incredibly. Yet it's just not what the people are looking for. Yeah. And it's not to the taste of the jury. And it has nothing to do with your worth as a musician either. So if you win, you play well, obviously. And if you don't win, you still probably play very well. So it's important, I think.
Well, thank you for saying that. Also,
another question was, how different were your expectations for your career during pregnancy and after the birth of your baby? In what ways did they change?
So it's just day and night. Like, of course, I had been thinking about being a mom for quite some time. And then I didn't pass through trial. And I was like, I want a principal flute job again. So I auditioned, and it was not working. And I almost always went to the final run. It didn't work out. And then we went into lockdown. And during lockdown, everything stopped. So I finally had time to think. And I was like, okay, how much longer do I wait? No one can promise me I can get another job. So I know people with babies and they still win jobs. I don't know a lot, mind you, but I know some, and I know people with babies and they have a career and they can do everything. So I can make it work. If I want to, and if I have the support needed, I can make it work, because you need support. Spoiler alert, you need lots of support as a mom. And like a supportive partner is the number one thing to have, which I do. I'm very grateful for that. And so, yeah, we had a baby. And I was pregnant, and I auditioned during the pregnancy in my first and my last trimester.
I remember watching those Instagram stories.
Oh, yeah,
and
I was
like,
very
wow,
pregnant.
What a hero, really.
Yeah, and I looked huge. Lots of people kept asking me if I had twins. You know, it was really huge. We're all very different with pregnancy. And I had the most perfect pregnancy ever. Like, I auditioned 3 weeks before I gave birth, and I was supposed to audition 3 days after I gave birth because my baby came early, and it was like really like, do I go to this audition or not? I might actually have the baby on the highway, so do I go or not? But I'm really fit and I know the program, and I felt like I could do anything. I was Wonder Woman, like really. I mean, I could just climb my 6 flights of stairs every day, and it was, being pregnant was amazing. It's not that way for every woman and for every pregnancy, but I was really lucky. So I felt like, no problem. I'm prepared. I'm ready. Baby can come. I still can play the flute. I had the concerto 3 months into motherhood. And I felt like, yeah, I can do it. Okay, let it come. And as powerful as I felt during the pregnancy, I felt hopeless during the postpartum. It went really badly. So baby came, and I was not diagnosed with postpartum depression. But it went I'm still wondering about that. So yeah, it was really hard. And so I had this concerto to play, and I was so scared about my career. I want to still play, to still do that. And in the first year of my baby's life, I auditioned 4 times, which is the most I've done in 1 year ever.
Oh my God.
And it was the least prepared auditions of the history of music, I'm sure. Like really, I just didn't have time or energy to play. I was not sleeping. Oh my God, the sleepless night. And I was so tired. And out of the 4 auditions, I went 3 times in the final round. 2 times I took no one.
What is the message behind this? To never prepare? Or?
Yeah, no, but you know, just like autopilot. Like, you know, I was like, there are also lots of hormones going in your body at the beginning of postpartum, when I was still nursing as well. And you just don't think because you're too tired to think. And thinking is actually quite a problem sometimes, you know?
For sure.
So yeah, it somehow worked well because also I had practice kept so much, and but not well enough. And then I realized I didn't want to spend all my time practicing, and also for concert it was really hard. It's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, and I could do it all. I mean, I did everything that was planned, the auditions and the concert I had in the first year, and then in the second, and now I'm realizing that maybe that's not what I want. So that's a surprise. So I was like, yeah, I can do everything, you know. I mean, I've got this example of Juliette Turel. She's got 2 sons. She's got this amazing career. She's principal. She's playing everywhere all the time. And her husband is Benoît Fromager, who's also not, you know, just staying at home doing nothing. So I was like, she can do it. Why couldn't I? And well, I can't. So we're all different. It's hard to accept that I can't, but I also don't want to. So that's a surprise. It's so I decided last year, and it's the first time I actually addressed that officially. So that I'm not gonna audition anymore.
Wow.
Outside of Luxembourg, because as a mom, I want my son to grow up in Luxembourg, to speak the 4 languages that everyone speaks in Luxembourg, to have this school in Luxembourg, which is amazing, to have this healthcare in Luxembourg, which is amazing. My partner is Luxembourgish. She's got a new job, which is why I started thinking about stopping auditioning, because he had been following me around, and now I think it was my turn to just, okay, he's got the job of his life, and he told me, yeah, if you want to audition, I'll follow you again. But can I do that to him? I mean, he followed me. I had my chance in Stuttgart. Didn't work out, so I think, yeah, fair is fair, you know.
And what drove you to do those 4 auditions in 1 year?
Because I really wanted to be a principal flute. I still do. But what do I want more? It's a question of priorities, and what I want most is having a great life. And what's a great life? Like, I think this definition is different from people to people. And now, of course, I would love to be a principal flute. And when my colleague retires, I do my very last audition. And it's going to be the worst. But I want to be in Luxembourg most. And Also, the orchestra is amazing. The work conditions are amazing. I probably have the nicest colleagues in the world. Like, this orchestra is such a warm and caring orchestra, and that's so important. When you're feeling down, when you have a hard time, it's so important. And so, yeah, I decided to stop auditioning, and it's a bit of grieving to do around that. But I mean, I'll have one last chance, and we'll see what happens. And if it doesn't work out, then it was not meant to be. And after a while, you audition and you go very far, and it's not working. Ask yourself why. So after 5 or 6 final rounds and it's not working, it's like, okay, what's the problem? Maybe the problem is that I still miss something, and I know exactly what I need to work on for my flute playing. But maybe the problem is also that I don't really want it. I mean, it can be lots of different things, but I've been wondering, and I think
perhaps also, like, if you can take a break.
Yes.
You can't really say never. Please don't say
Yes.
never.
No,
because
you
might
can
come
also
back
take
to
a break.
it.
But it's a very, like, maybe it feels like settling to just say, okay, I'm not putting this pressure
putting
anymore.
the weight off
Like,
your
exactly.
shoulder.
And I've taken this decision almost 1 year and a half ago now, and I've never regretted it. So
That's really good.
It's of course it makes me a bit sad, but I feel just so much better. And lots of some colleagues have told me, "Oh, you look happier now." yeah, I know.
But I think it's also just about like finding a balance. And as you
Yes.
say, like, if everything in Luxembourg
Yes.
is so great and you enjoy living there, it would be a pity to give up everything to move to a new
Something
city, a new
unknown.
country,
And
don't know anyone.
going through trial again, like uprooting everyone again to maybe come back again. And do I want that badly? No. Because I can't do that to my partner also. I mean, he never asked me to, but I feel like I had my turn, and now it's normal, and I never regretted it. And so I'll give everything when the audition comes next year, probably in my orchestra.
We will
But
have the fingers crossed.
Yeah. But yeah, maybe I might still change my mind after, but I'm not getting any younger. So yeah.
Well, I mean, arguably, if in the height of pregnancy, you can do everything that you've done, I think that's very motivational.
Yeah, no, but and also, I mean, there are stories, like, I mean, Sylvia Caredou got the job as a national orchestra in France, 2 years ago, I think, it was my last trimester, so it was my last audition in pregnancy. I mean, I think anything is possible, you know, just, it's not easy.
Of course.
Well, we can move on to the audience questions.
Sure.
We asked people.
We got super interesting questions from the audience, actually. Maybe we can start, because we didn't have time to talk with you about it in the regular episode. So one person asked you, and we're also wondering, what made you want to record the complete works of Jolivet? And P.S., your 5 incantations are my favorite.
Oh, thank you. Yes, so after Kobe... So it's a long story, but when I came back from Kobe, a CD label just wrote to me and asked, "Do you want to record?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And then she told me, "Okay, that's gonna be 10,000 euros." I'm like, "What? Wait a second." So because I had no idea about recording codes and things. So then, I asked around, and someone had a contact who is very connected, and he told me, "Yeah, do you want to record for a German label?" I'm like, "I don't know. I mean, I didn't think about it by myself and say, oh yeah, because I know Naxos, blah blah blah." And then I started thinking about, what repertoire do I want to record. So for me it was obvious. I had 2 choices. Either, like Carmen and this kind of things that are very audience friendly, and like you can have a picture of you with a red dress on the cover and it's gonna sell very well. Or record what you play best. And I think what I play best is Jolivet. And it's the music that I of course it's really hard, but whenever I play it, no matter how tired or exhausted I am and how tiring it is to play, it just gives me so much energy back. And there's something very primitive about this music, which is what he was looking for. And it makes me so so I don't even know what word to use. I just really love it so much. It resonates with me like really deep within. So I wanted to record the chant les noces and incantations, and also I want Kobe with a concerto. So yeah, so I wanted to record the pieces with piano and for solo flute, and then so Naxos agreed, and then I met with sound engineer. Sound engineer is also more than that, but so yeah, with Marco Battistella, and we were talking, having a chat and a coffee, and then I made a joke, and I was like, yeah, and then maybe in 10 years we'll do the second CD with all the chamber music works and the concerto. And he went like, oh, but no, that's a great idea, let's do that. Yeah, sure, let's do that. Let's find all the money. So yeah, that was a point that I had to work on. But so that's how it went. It was a joke. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do the whole thing, and we recorded the whole thing, and it was so hard. Like really, really, really hard. And also then,
repertoire.
yeah, and it was planned, and then I won the audition in Stuttgart, and I had to move, and I was on trial, and it was all at the same time, and because it's always all at the same time.
Yeah.
Always.
It's never in the few weeks that you have nothing.
No, it's always everything at the same time. And it was like really, really tough. And also, normally you record music that you've played 100 times in a concert. And I had never played these pieces, so we just recorded them, So it was really a lot of stress. Probably like the hardest thing I ever had to do, professionally wise, because since then I had a baby, and that's much harder. But no, really, it was such a stress. I've been traumatized. Like I never want to record ever again. Really. But I'm so glad I did that. It's just I played all of Jolivet's music. It's amazing.
That is incredible to say.
Yeah, and I mean,
I don't think a lot of people can say that.
Yeah,
maybe no one.
But I understand it so much better now, and it's it's amazing, and I could just play it every day of my life.
And now your cities are a reference point.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know who's gonna be the next to record the whole thing. I think the last one was Valade, and it was in 95, I think. So, yeah, so it's a long time ago. So, yeah. Yep.
Another person asked, how do you organize your life working in an orchestra? They mean the schedule of study, preparing your repertoire.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because on the paper, when you have orchestra rehearsals, well, it depends on the orchestras. In Stuttgart, we only had from 9:30 to 2:30 rehearsal. So on the paper, it's lots of time to practice still. And in Luxembourg, we have a morning and afternoon rehearsal. So theoretically, you have lots of time to practice. Thing is, after the rehearsals, like, my brain is fried. And I just really don't want to practice anymore. But luckily, I'm a morning person. So before I had a baby, I was at the Philharmonie very early, like 7:30. And I would practice 2 hours or 2.5 before the rehearsal. And I mean, 2.5 hours is already plenty of time. Mm-hmm. Like, unless you have a massive competition and you need more time, then, I mean, you also need to practice in the evening. But for normal concert preparation, if you organize yourself well in advance, that's enough to practice what you have to practice. What I do now, because I can't arrive that early anymore, is that I eat my lunch in 15 minutes during the break in the morning. So that's not fun. And then the lunch break, which is 1 hour and a half between the two rehearsals, I practice. So I don't see my colleagues. I don't go to the restaurant with them, and I
play
just
non-stop.
Yes, that's it. So it's a bit hard and tiring. But I mean, I come early in the morning to do my warm up anyway. I mean, I arrive at 9. I warm up. I have my coffee with my colleagues. At least I see some people for 20 minutes in the day, and then I practice. And after the rehearsals are done, I just go home and pick up my son. So yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
that's intense.
Yeah, that's intense. But I mean, when I don't have concerts to practice for, I don't need to be as strict with it, and it's okay. Yeah.
So another person is asking, what are your flute and piccolo, and how did you choose them? Well, I'm guessing the brand. So
yes.
What brand is your
flute? So my piccolo, the magic flute, I had for my 18th birthday, and it's a Philippe Hamig. And I love it. And I just picked it in Paris. At the time it was Cadino. He's retired now. But I just fell in love with it. And I have tried many piccolos since then, and not one was better than mine, so not for me at least. And my flute is a Muramatsu PTP, which I have a complicated relationship with. It's my fourth head joint, I think, for the instrument. Yeah. And I've been looking for a new flute for quite some time. And every time I think I've found something, I just bring it back to Luxembourg. I try it out for a couple of days. I'm like, no. So because my PTP is just great. Just now, I have had it for 13 years. Like I just bought it before the audition in Luxembourg. And
so it's also a bit of your lucky flute.
Exactly. I won Luxembourg, Kobe, and Stuttgart with it. But I was a very different flutist at the time. And now I love it. I love because the sound is so dark, and I love that. But when I play first flute in the orchestra, I don't come through because I miss the high harmonics, which is probably one of the things that didn't help me in Stuttgart. But so I'm looking for something else, but it's hard to find because then either it's too bright and I hate it because I don't want to play like ding, very, very brilliant or it's just very bright, but it doesn't have a lot of body in the sound. And my PTP has lots of body in the sound. I can just push it a lot, and I love that. So it's really complicated. So we'll see what happens. So far, I'm sticking with it, looking for something else, but still still sticking with it. And it's a great flute. So
nice. Sophia Neugebauer asked the question. Do you like the format of international flute competitions?
I mean, I can't complain. Obviously, it's easy for me to say I won one. But, I've done 5 competitions. And, how do you want to do them otherwise? I mean, like, with auditions, it's complicated, like, lots of different things, depending on the country. With competitions, it's more or less the same everywhere. Well, it was before we came to COVID and videos, at least. And I think it's well done. Some people are really unlucky with the first run on CD. But then again, not everyone can have the same setup to record. I don't see how we could do it differently, to be honest.
Okay. I think that's all for the regular questions and audience questions. And now we have the most important part, which is fire questions. It's something we ask everyone. So we'll ask you 3.
Okay.
What soundtrack would you choose for your life?
Oh my God. It would have to be some Jolivet, I guess.
Which one, though?
Yeah, well, if you put the 5 incantations, you kind of have everything on it. But, soundtrack of my life. I don't know.
Someone should put Jolivet in a movie soundtrack.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, no, I don't know. Probably... Yeah, Chant de Noces is not very joyful. So I'm still a happy person, so that wouldn't fit. But I don't know. That's a good question, huh? Something that goes all over the place, very fast, because I talk a lot and very fast, as you probably noticed by now. I don't know. Maybe a Paganini Caprice.
Okay.
No, I love, you know what? Beethoven 7, the first movement.
Oh, that's a very nice choice.
Great.
Yeah.
So the next fair question is, are you a dogs or a cats person?
Oh, cat. For sure. I really don't like
that
dogs.
was very fast.
Yeah, no. I don't like dogs, and I grew up with cats, so yeah.
Okay.
Which piece would you record with your favorite orchestra?
I already recorded the Jolivet concerto. I think now I would like to tackle the Ibert one. Yeah.
Okay. Well,
nice.
Hopefully that happens.
Yeah.
We would love to hear it.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much
my pleasure,
for
really.
having this talk with us. I think you said so many very important things that are, important to remember for young flutists and very important topics to talk about. So
Yeah,
thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Pleasure.